Hello, I'm Danish Bari, and I'm a movement disorder neurologist in the University of Nebraska Medical Center and an assistant professor in the Department of Neurological Sciences. The goal of this talk is to give you three advices, the most important three advices that I have personally received in developing a career. That may be looking for a new job, that may be performing at an interview. An interview could be for residency, could be fellowship. An interview could be for getting a job as a faculty. Or just really three solid rules in making decisions on how to build your career, regardless of whether you're interviewing or applying for a job or not. Why me? Nothing specific. I am a movement disorder neurologist. I'm an assistant professor at the Department of Neurological Sciences at the University of Nebraska Medical Center. I'm the co-director for Parkinson's disease program. I am the Associate Program Director for Movement Disorder Fellowship. I'm also the Chair for Curriculum Committee for Neurology Residency Program. I'm the Director of International Neurology Program. I do hold some titles and wear some different hats and do certain different jobs and tasks. One of the reasons I think I've been able to achieve these goals that I've set forth for me, not necessarily titles, but what came with it, the projects that earned me those titles and I was able to do because of their titles, are because of following certain rules or following certain goals of ambition. They may have worked for me, I may have been misled that they have worked for me, but I'm going to share you the wisdom as it came from Chancellor Maurer. Chancellor Maurer, or Harold Maurer, was the chancellor for University of Nebraska Medical Center, who has built all these different campuses of UNMC. You will see his legacy, his stamp on various different places in the university. And sitting with him in a dinner program for mentorship, I heard this wonderful advice from him that has stuck with me since then. Maybe unintentionally I was doing those things for a while, but it really congealed it for me, it really simplified or elaborated it for me. So I'm going to give you Chancellor Maurer's wisdom. So he has done a lot more, so if you don't believe me, believe him, and I'm just going to try to unpack it for you, what he said, based on what I understand. And that you have to take with a grain of salt. So Chancellor Maurer, sitting with me on the dinner, said, in order to succeed in your career, you need three things. You need focus, you need relationship, and you need stunts. And let me tell you what I think what he means. Let's look at them one by one. Number one, focus. Focus is a commitment to a career. When you're looking for a residency or when you're starting even a medical school, what you're trying to do is to commit to a life of doing something. And that commitment has to show. When you're looking for a residency, you have to tell what you are trying to become. You cannot appear as if you've just wandered into this situation. You had no path that you took that showed the direction, that showed the commitment and the focus. You don't have a path forward where you're trying to do. Where are you trying to go? What are you trying to become? And you have to show what have you done to get here. And you have to show what are you willing to do with it. All of this has to show on your resume. All of that has to show with your discussions, with your points. Like what story do you have? What are you bringing to me? Let me give you an example. Let me give you an example of two different candidates. Let me give you a story of Faisal. Faisal is an applicant. He has graduated from a good medical school in Pakistan, where I'm from. So let's say he studied from King Edward Medical School. He graduated. He came and applied here. He has amazing score, wonderful score. He has been from the top medical school in his state, or nationwide, one of the few schools. And he's here because of all of that, because of what a great student he has been, what a wonderful job he has done with his scores. But what else has he done to show why is he applying for neurology? He has never been to any neurology conference in medical school. Yes, he has read a lot of books and I know he has great scores, but what else he has done to show his interest in neurology? He's never been to any conference. He's not presented any cases of neurology. He may have seen a lot of neurology cases. I have no way to know that. He never presented any one of them. Was he never exposed to any interesting case? Was he never interested in any idea in neurology of research? Okay, what about social work? What about care of patients with neurology? He never went, he never did anything. He could have gone to a stroke rehab unit to see how patients are doing and helping with them. He could have done a drive for getting awareness and education of early presentation for stroke. He has done nothing like that. And he's sitting here and saying, oh, I'm really interested in stroke. Really? What have you done to show that? Okay, what are you willing to do now with this? So I asked him, well, what do you want to do in future? Oh, I want to be an academic neurologist. What does that mean? Tell me what you're going to do with stroke. Are you going to be taking care of acute stroke? Or will you be researching how to do better care of stroke? Will you be providing stroke care in stroke centers of excellence? What do you mean you want to be a stroke neurologist? What does that mean for you? How are you going to translate it into a wonderful career? What career are you planning? Show me that vision. Take me with you on a ride in the interview and I will know you're doing great. And compare that with another candidate, Ryan. Ryan finished medical school in the University of Nebraska, a mid-level school in the United States. He has decent scores, good scores, but not great, like Faisal had. But when he walks in, he's passionate about movement disorder. He tells me, my grandma had Parkinson's disease when I was in high school, and that led me to go for movement disorders. I have been to Parkinson's disease symposium. I know what they talk about. I know the current research in Parkinson's disease about neuroprotection in Parkinson's. And then he starts asking me, Dr. Bari, what have you done any trial in neuroprotection? What have your experience been? Have you seen this as a challenge? How do you diagnose Parkinson's disease? And then he tells me he wants to be a movement disorder neurologist because he wants to be an expert in Parkinson's disease. He wants to take care of these patients with movement disorders, especially Parkinson's disease, and make a difference in their life, provide better quality of care. He wants to establish a center of excellence in Parkinson's disease. He wants to do research. He wants to be a participant in those trials that break through and finally figure out Parkinson's disease. Who will you pick? Let's say you're in my spot and you're interviewing these two great guys, wonderful, amazing people, well-dressed, well-groomed, but one has a commitment to a career. One have a focus, and the other guy just happens to be there. He says he has a commitment. I cannot see it. Number 2, relationships. Are you a team player? How will you behave with everyone around you? Will you cause trouble on the floor? Will we have patient complaints against you? Those are the things when we're thinking about getting a resident that we think about. How is this guy going to develop a relationship? Are we on the same page? When we talk and sit down, does he look interested in what I have to say? Is he asking meaningful questions? Does he understand the context of what's going on? Or is he going to just pop up a canned question that he read somewhere online that this is the kind of question to ask during a residency interview? Or is he going to engage with what has happened that day and say, oh, by the way, I ran into Dr. Hellman and she's a wonderful neurologist and she is the director of Huntington's Disease Center of Excellence. I'm amazed by that disease. I knew about it before. Do you have other centers of excellence at this program? Now this guy is engaged. He's developing relationship. He's knew what's going on and he wants to know what's going on more. I want to understand when he comes in, who will be his advocate? Who will be his sponsor? Who will like him so much and say, hey, I love this guy. This guy is a great resident. I want him to go into movement disorders. He'll be great as an expert in Huntington's disease or ataxia or Parkinson's disease. And then, if you're really coming to Omaha, you can either be very honest and say, hey, I don't know Omaha, Nebraska, but it's okay. I like what I've seen so far. It looks like a great, decent city. I read online and people are saying great thing about Omaha. It's a good place to raise family. And to be honest, I don't think in residency I'll have much time to interact with the city. I don't care a whole lot because your program is so wonderful. And just like we talked about all these Center for Excellence, I would love being in Omaha to be at this program. And that's an honest, straightforward answer. And by the way, don't try to fake it. It's especially, don't get caught faking it. If I see a fake interest in program, a fake question or questionnaire, fake code from here and there, it's like he's just gaming the system. He's not really here. He's not developing the relationship. We're not connecting here. And that's the second important point. Number 3 is stunts. Stunts is standing out from the crowd. I'm going to see 8 people, 9 people in the interview today for one spot. And I need to know, who were you? Why would I remember you? How would I remember you? What about you am I going to remember? The guy who was awkward at conversation? The guy who was chewing gum or looking at his phone? I'm going to remember you as the guy, oh, that guy who said his grandma had Parkinson's disease. And he was telling me how engaged and interested in Parkinson's disease. He has been to a conference. He has interest in developing a center of excellence for Parkinson's disease. Am I going to remember you like that? What have you done that stands you apart? What's your stunt? What big thing have you done? Have you done a research paper? I'll say, oh, that guy who worked in a hematology lab looking at these red blood cells abnormalities with Kelly and Duffy antigen on these red blood cells in its relationship with, neurosarcoidosis. Anything unusual about you, anything unique that makes you different in a good way. Not the guy who was so tall, I've not seen anybody that tall, or the guy who was, strangely dressed, the guy who put on pink shoes to the interview. Not that way. In some situations that can work, but they can usually work against you if you don't have something to complete the package. So a stunt is something wonderful you've done. And I know you've done something wonderful. Think about it. Something that was important to you, that was emotionally motivating to you. It may be that you went to the emergency department every night to work with nurses to see what kind of work they do and to get good at blood draw, although it was not required of you to be good at blood draw, but you felt that was important to know that skill, because you may be doing practice in a small town and you're the only guy who can do blood draw that day. Or you were the one nurses used to come to when they have failed with a stick and say, hey, can you do the blood draw for us? Anything that stands you out, anything that shows your commitment, anything that shows your relationship, your focus, your career goals, your wonderful personality. Find the hook and show it. Show it in your resume. Bring it up on a topic. I love doing online education and online learning and YouTube videos. Wherever I go, I will bring the conversation to that, because my mind brings it to it. So you don't have to fake it. If you think about something passionately, think about it enough, converse with people enough, it becomes part of you. It's part of who you are, and that's your stunt. That's how we remember you. That's your persona, the face you're wearing. And that's what's important. And one of the ways of all these 3 things, especially the last one, the stunt, will be to watch and learn. Watch the great people who have done wonderful jobs. See what do they talk about. So if you pay attention, if you are with someone enough of times, you will start recognizing what he always talks about. And we talk about it. It's like, oh, I don't want to see that guy today because he always talks about this. That always talking about something is what is unique about that guy. So if you cannot watch and learn, then ask and learn. And ask what motivates you. What do you talk about all the time? What's interesting to you? What's important to you? And I'll tell you, well, it's online education. I want to teach people online. I think YouTube is an amazing place to teach people. It's a wonderful place to be. One last thing that can be easy or tough in the interview, and it's not specifically a career advice, will be to address the elephants in the room. If there's something very obviously awkward, you have to talk about it. For example, if you had an awkward situation and you feel that awkwardness in the air and say, hey, I'm sorry, I feel awkward because I am from a different cultural background. This is my first time in the United States. I'm from Pakistan and we do some things differently over there. And I want to apologize in advance if I do something unusual, which may be that I just didn't get it. I apologize for that. Or it may be your accent. You can say, hey, by the way, I'm sorry, I have a thick accent. English doesn't come natural to me. I have practiced quite a bit and I think I can write pretty good, but sometimes I have trouble getting my words across. And that is such a relief, because the other guy is also tense about this situation, that he doesn't want to feel bad about you, but at the same time he's having trouble hearing you. He's having trouble, he's worried that he's going to misunderstand something you say, and when he talks back he will look foolish. So you just address it. Address anything odd you have, address anything you have failed, address anything you have. Just say, hey, by the way, I'm sorry about my thick jacket. I just misunderstood that Omaha. Somebody told me that Omaha will be very cold, and I know it's so warm outside, and I have this big jacket on, and I feel odd about it. But apologize. I just thought it will be too cold, or apologize for being late. Hey, I'm sorry. I apologize. I was late. I thought I will have enough time to get in, but I misunderstood, and I couldn't get the cab on time. Address the elephant in the room. It may be culture. It may be your timing. It may be your look, your CV, your resume, your work you have done, and just address it in a nice way and just explain it out, so that the other guy is not tense about it. If you're not sure the other person has noticed something, you can always ask. Say, by the way, sometimes people notice about me that I have a thick accent. I don't know if you have noticed it or not. And another guy may say, oh no, I'm just fine, I can hear you fine. Or they may say, yeah, some words I'm not getting it right, and then you can explain it away. Thank you very much. I hope you find this useful in your residency interview, in your medical school interview, in career choices, in making decisions within Pakistan, outside of Pakistan, in your home country, wherever you are. I just say Pakistan because many of those of my friends and juniors come and see my videos more often. But wherever you are, I hope you find it useful. I know I didn't talk about your USMLE scores. I didn't talk about how to get higher scores, because I know you're doing great. You are studying hard, you're working hard, you're getting great scores, and I want to talk about where the bottleneck is. You get invited to an interview and you're not sure if you're going to get an interview, you're going to get the job, you're going to get the residency. You're competing against 8 other people, and you had 10 interviews, and you don't know if you're going to match or not. And this is where you're sticking. These are the 3 things you have to focus on. Focus on your focus. What is it you're trying to become? What are you committed at? What are your career goals? Focus on relationships. How can you connect? What's going on? What are other people doing? Just ask them. If you didn't have a chance to read online what they have done in research, you can just ask them. So, Dr. Bari, what kind of neurologist are you? Do you have specific areas of interest? And you can say, oh, that's great. You're doing a wonderful job in movement disorders, but my interests often have been in stroke. Do you think it's an okay thing? And then stunts. Bring in what's unique about you. Think about how you want to be remembered from that day 2 months later, when they're sitting down and doing ranking of each resident, and your face shows up and something about you pops in their mind, and someone says, oh yeah, I remember this guy. He went to this medical school where I've been from, and he was telling me these great things about the medical school that he has done. Or he started a new society. Or he started a new project. Or he was working hard. He was putting in late nights. He was doing this. He was starting a new idea. He tried this. He has been to UK. He has done this in the UK. And so on and so forth. Anything that's unique about you. It doesn't have to be medicine. It can be anything that shows that your personality, your commitment, your career goals. Anything that you think is useful. Thank you so much.